Hey, Ghost Machine fans, this one's for you.
Welcome to the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast, episode 60. How has it been 60 episodes already? We have a giant-sized episode this time. That's right, we're coming to you with not one, but two issues following the travails of our favorite immortal, Simon Pure, and his new traveling companion, the Northerner. I am Canadian loyalist Michael Schwartz, and I could not be happier to be joining my friends Snoggle and Nick, recording this episode on Victoria Day in Canada. How's everyone doing on this momentous holiday?
I'm doing amazing.
And well, happy Victoria Day. What's Victoria Day, Michael? It's great to have you back.
It is a holiday here in Canada where we have fireworks and we celebrate the Queen's birthday, even though it's May 18th. Her birthday was on the 24th. Have you ever heard of May 24 weekend from Canadians at all?
Is that a Star
Big
Wars
holiday. No. May 24 is like a big holiday here. It's like the first weekend you go camping and stuff. But it is to celebrate our queen, our previous queen, Queen Victoria. You know, who Simon Pure would be celebrating.
Right.
Back in the 1800s, yeah.
That's why this is apt that you were able to set aside the time. Oh my gosh, you're making a big sacrifice right now.
Huge moment because all Canadians, that's all they're doing right now is celebrating. And, you know, the reason I think they chose it was to differentiate us from America. You know, we were all about the monarchy, and you guys were all not about it.
No.
So there you go. Some Canadian culture for you.
Well, have you been celebrating anything to do with the launch of the upcoming, isn't there like an exciting Armored thing coming with the Kickstarter deal going on?
You are right. Yeah. We are currently in the pre-launch phase of the Kickstarter for the hardcover edition of Armored. So this will collect issues 1 to 5 and the 10-page story that was featured in the half issue. I'm really excited about this. We have new art from Francesco Tomaselli. There's a lot of cool surprises coming on this Kickstarter. So if you haven't gone over to Kickstarter yet and hit saved or notify me, please do so. I need as many followers as possible before we go live. And I'll tell the Ghost Machine fans, I think we are launching next week. So get in on the pre-launch. I was just at the Calgary Fan Expo or Comic-Con. And one of the artists sitting next to me, her sister took copies of it and wanted to just read issue 1, but ended up reading all 5 issues right immediately. Like, did not break to, split it into multiple days. She just read it in one spot. I think it's a good one to get in hardcover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
Awesome.
How do we find you on Kickstarter?
Just search Armored and then space and then search for Armored Vol, like VOL, and you'll find it's like Armored Volume 1. Yeah.
Nice.
Or go to Clover Press's social medias and they'll have links to it. Go that way. Yeah.
Right. Cool. Well, as usual, we have a shout out, Michael, and it's to somebody that you know as well, a mutual acquaintance of ours. And it is to friend of the show and Ghost Machine cover artist. He's done a whole bunch of these covers at this point, Sean Von Gorman. And it's pretty exciting. His independent book, The Pedestrian, got nominated for an Eisner. Huh? That's pretty neat.
It's really cool. I'm really happy for Sean and Joey. Their book was one of my favorites of last year. Really excited for them. His covers on the books have been incredible.
Agreed.
Awesome for them, but hey, Michael and Nick got a jet because Snoggle is back in the newsroom.
today is Wednesday, May 21st, which happens to be the release date for Redcoat number 12. The Northerner's Tale continues on, and we are excited to talk about that this time around. Also, some huge news. Ghost Machine's first intercompany crossover is happening later this year. Jim Lee has completed a cover for Geiger number 17 featuring Ash Arden, and Gary Frank has completed a cover for Batman number 163. They're both out later this year, so that's super cool.
It's a great cover. It's awesome. And I love what Gary did with the cover for Batman. You know what would be a huge win is if they could get McFarlane to do a cover.
Yeah, I was thinking McFarlane and Silvestri too.
That would be great.
Recently, Todd had Jason and Jeff sign, do their signatures on some of his signature edition gold figures or whatever. So I think the potential is there for a McFarlane cover for sure.
For sure. And they already did Eric Larson. It would just be cool to get all of the Image guys to do a cover.
Yes, they did do Eric Larson. That's true. Well, things are a little bit different this time. We're talking about 2 issues, not just one. But we are going to clarify the cadence of that in detail when we do the listener mail segment at the end of the show. For now, we just want you to know that we're looking at this kind of more like it's Simon Meets the Northerner, the first 2 chapters. And we're going to go through it just like it's a 44-page, double-sized, giant-sized, if you will, issue. But to do that, we still got to run down the covers, which we can do rather swiftly. But there's kind of a trend here. Did you get a chance to see the wide variety of Northerner Simon and some that are just Simon doing his thing with whoever covers, Michael?
Yes, I have seen them all. I'm a fan of I get the A covers for this series, so I missed out on the others. My shop is pre-order only, so I'm always just on my pull list. I have the A covers, but the other ones look really cool. Tell us about them.
Those A covers are both Brian Hitch and Brad Anderson, Simon and the Northerner covers, right? And the first one, it makes it look like the 2 of them are in like a battlefield against each other, and that's for number 11. And the 12A cover, did you notice that they're actually both strapped to cannons and about to get shot from the back because they're strapped to cannons in the A cover?
Oh yeah, you're right. I did not notice that. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I really liked the issue 12, the A cover a lot.
With the cannons?
Yeah, 5 stars.
Yeah. Well, what a horrible way to go.
Every one of these covers has so much story in them. There's so there's a lot of Junkyard Joe. Look at the bottom image on the back, and then
Geiger's in there.
Yeah, Geiger.
And that's the case with these in typical fashion. But there's one that's a lot of fun. So the B cover for 11 is a Gary Frank and Brad Anderson cover, and that's the Northerner. He's got Simon, he's holding him up like he's stumbling. Simon looks drunk, and it looks like it's after a battle, and they ran into a cart full of alcohol after the battle was over, or something of that nature. It was pretty cool. I like that one. That one is super. That one's super cool. And then there's a couple of other ones. There's one by In-hyuk Lee, which is Simon sitting on this throne of guns. Looks just like Game of Thrones, but the throne is made of guns. It looks pretty neat. That kind of, they pepper in these covers that don't have a tendency of following necessarily the plot line of the particular issue. I think that's a good example of that. But it seems like that is kind of foreshadowing where we're headed a little based on issue 12. But anyways, continue. Oh, you think it because of what was in the back of the cart that the guy was driving south? Well, when we get to issue 12, we can talk about it. Okay. No problem. And that's appropriate because there's two other ones really quick that I want to point out. Is 12B is by Marco Santucci, who I've really enjoyed looking at his art online. And it's like Simon in a bar, but it's during Prohibition. And so that's like clearly not set in this time. Like it's another side cover, and like I like it, and that's okay with me. But it doesn't tie to this story as far as we know. And then last one, friend of the show, does a lot of Spawn covers. It's Raymond Gay. He did this cool one with Simon riding along with Annie Oakley in like the Frontier. So obviously we don't see any of that in 11 or 12, but it's a really nice cover. I'm used to seeing him do really dark things, and it's neat to see him do something different.
The colors are beautiful on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the colors are beautiful on that one because Brad Anderson did those.
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, that's the rundown of these fantastic 6 covers for these 2 issues, all wrapped into one, specially baked in a package for you this time around. And what we need to do now is take a moment, because we are going to deep dive into both of them in just a minute, which makes this your official spoiler pause for Redcoat number 11 and number 12. All right, we're back. We can do it without risk of spoilage. Snoggle, could you give us a creator roll call?
Okay, we've got our creators, Jeff Johns and Brian Hitch. Our inkers, which are Andrew Curry and Brian Hitch. Our colorist, Brad Anderson. And our king of letters, Rob Lee. The dream team that makes up Redcoat.
You want to know something really neat?
I do.
If you go look at Rob Lee Outdoors, the Instagram account, you will see a turtle. It's an excellent turtle picture taken by Rob Lee in the wild. Then, if you go to Rob Lee Comics, the other Instagram account where he does things about Ghost Machine, you will notice that he superimposed that turtle on a panel from Rook Exodus and spoke to the character carapace about how he was rushing out the store to make sure to pick up a comic book. You guys need to go look at that if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's hilarious. So July 16th, 1864 is when this kicks off. We got this beautiful splash page, one page with a Confederate flag, tattered, bullet-riddled, flapping in the wind. And the date is July 16th, 1864. So we know the Civil War is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that we're in the South because the flag is there, and that's why we're going to see a whole bunch of exposition, I guess we could say, between these Confederate soldiers. But did you notice that? I mean, beautiful page by Brian. You can just see, you can hear the clippy clop of the horses and these cannons wheels going by, and you could just every footstep of these humans. The awesome page right here, right? But it's all to set up this character who's kind of just walking in on the bottom 3 panels, who has a satchel with a very familiar symbol on it. Did you guys recognize that?
That's yes. Our symbol. That's the one we've been following.
The founding father symbol.
Well, but this is confusing, right? Because that satchel has information that's being taken to do bad stuff, right? And so, as far as we know, yeah,
it's being used to help the South, right? Like it would be used to help the South win.
Right.
That's what we're told.
So this is what I'm getting at. That indicates, because we've seen that symbol in a lot of places, and we've seen it like with good and bad necessarily, and we don't fully understand. So what this is saying is, in this era of time, the founding fathers are, for whatever reason, allied with the South. And that the reason I point this out is also, Michael, because you want to talk a lot more about, we're going to spend a lot more time on issue 12 and a lot of the little things. And we see the symbol again in a super different place.
And where in the future have we seen it? Is it on any characters in the future?
Junkyard Joe's dog tags.
Dog tags, yeah, they have it.
Yes, it kind of seems like they are the government. It's always kind of like the government is what has it. And then we don't necessarily, I think President Griffin, because he was given the dog tags in the 60s, remember? So when he's in the future with the vice president who sends him out to get Geiger, they have their own symbology, and that is not that. But their foot soldiers look like the custodian's type of foot soldiers, and the custodian is who made him, and the custodian is with President Griffin. So one would presume over time that this is still that group of evil people, even in the future. Where does this go? Because we've been waiting for this issue for like years, man. We've been waiting for this issue since Junkyard Joe #6 when we saw the Northerner come through a portal. So we know we're in the South. We see that symbol, that satchel. There's a couple of guys chatting about it. It looks like so it appears that the founding fathers, for whatever reason, they want to help the South, or these guys stole it from them. We don't know.
So this young black girl who obviously is like, haha, suckers, I'm going to take your satchel, which, duh, you think she's not eavesdropping. Do you guys think that could be Harriet Tubman?
I was wondering if it was someone of historical significance.
Yeah, that's a great point.
She might be too young here to be Harriet Tubman. Just some thoughts I've been trying to think about, because he said that she's important as well. I do like the appearance of the Northerner, how he just kind of comes through, though. It looks like by accident.
So that's something that I wanted to briefly touch on too. And the thing about the girl who leads us to that scene where there's that blue explosion, whether she's Harriet Tubman or not, although I'm banking now that she's definitely somebody of significance, is that we know she's brave, whoever she is, because the whole reason she does this is she overhears a conversation that she knows that thing in that satchel is going to make the bad guys win this war. So she's trying to literally stop that by running away from, this is a brave young person to do this. But then there's this explosion, this blue explosion. And what I wanted to point out was when we've seen them travel in the past in Junkyard Joe 6, there's a portal.
It's definitely not her. She would be 42.
Well, somebody, I'm sure it's somebody. I actually have a thought about that, because he says something to Simon about who she is a little bit later. But it's interesting. What I'm saying, though, is it doesn't look like he came here. Obviously, he wanted to come to this time period to work on this quest or whatever. But when we've seen him travel through time in other issues, not a lot, but it's been through like a portal and not this like boom, and then he's there type of thing. So I thought that was interesting. But that first panel when he just says he's from the north, way up north, and he's got those two whatever they are, Glocks or 45s pointing at them. I'm going to remember that Brian Hitch panel forever. And there's just little nuances, right? Like he's got that, but then after he gets rid of them, he puts it in a more modern duffel bag. He's got a Zippo lighter. He burns the documents to get rid of it. And then there is a little detail, right? Like he talks about this what does he say? What's the significance of this bookmark / $5 bill in his notebook? It's kind of a big deal.
I caught it all, but I don't know the significance yet.
So what he's saying is he's going through his documents after he burns the documents that were going to be taken to the South. And she looks and sees that he's holding something that we know to be a modern $5 bill. And it has Jefferson Davis on it, which is not the case with the modern $5 bill. And so he's saying it's his bookmark, and she's like, "Is that money?" He says, "It's my bookmark. It lets me know when I'm done."
I think it's like a Back to the Future thing.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Tell us why, Michael.
He's totally doing a with the photograph that Marty McFly carries around with him, and he watches as his family disappears and reappears. If it reappears, the future's safe. As his brother and sister start to disappear, his future is disappearing. So I think that's what the Northerner is using to gauge if the future is about to go the wrong way. And that's why he needs to get that satchel, because whatever's in that satchel is going to help the Self win. Yeah.
And we don't know the specific detail until number 12. And we got to get there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it really is a setup for 12. It's just like, let's get the Northerner in. We know what his goal is. It's the satchel. And then, issue 12 has got all the delicious details.
Yep, and we're gonna get there. I really quick want to call out this double page splash Civil War battle for one really serious reason, one really kind of silly reason. And the serious reason is that it just blows my mind. Like I would love like a big poster of that to put on a wall. Like the battle with just it looks like a scene of like Gettysburg, whatever. And in the very back upper left, there is a little red coated guy running through the trees. Did you notice that?
That's him? Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of Where's Waldo or whatever. Yeah.
I also like in this issue, they ask him, why are you wearing red? Like, why are you wearing a red coat? And he says, I stand independent. What clearer way to show that than with a coat as far from blue or gray as a man can get? But we know he needs to choose a side. Mm-hmm. His life depends on it.
Because he literally doesn't have any money to do anything unless he, does something for somebody, which is how he runs into the cobbler, because he's got this trio of ladies and he's drinking and hanging out and doing whatever. And then he gets approached by him because he wants him to be a courier of something that is going to go to the south, right? And this cobbler guy, he just tells him, I am the cobbler. I mean, it's another one of the instances of it. In the world of the Unnamed, there's many the whoever's. And I dig that. I'll take it. And in his case, though, it's not that because he's the evil cobbler who beats you to death with shoes. It's because he killed the cobbler and took his house. But we'll find that out in the next issue. But there's no indication other than he has means, and he's obviously allied to the South, and he gives them something he wants them to take that's going to help the South. And then is when we get that crazy stumbles out of the bar, gets the blue flash in his eyes, remembers the day that he got his immortality, and then, several other scenes. Did you guys notice during the visions that there's a Johnny Appleseed in his arms and he's like aged? And he says, who did this, Johnny? So there's a part of the Johnny story that we don't know yet, too.
I did notice that. I don't know if this spoils what we're about to... Like, when I first saw this, it was like, why did this happen? But after reading the 12th one, I'm even more affirmed that him taking that and even having the intention to go do that task for the cobbler started to, like, rip him apart in his mind. Yeah. His mind, and then the Northerner comes up, and just the Northerner being there makes the vision subside.
I thought maybe their emphasis on how there's a whole panel on him thrown up and then a whole panel where he says, what did they put in that last drink, that there may have actually been something like that somebody gave him, and it might be one of those things where in another couple of issues we see a flashback, or I don't know. But yeah, either way, it definitely looks connected to something that just happened. And he goes through this rather rapidly, and then he throws up, and then runs into the Northerner in an alley, who promptly, kicks his butt. But it's, what does he say? He says, you need to help me before the country falls apart. One, he's like, why should I care about America? He says, you should care, because if America unravels, Mr. Pure, so do you. Very cool one-page splash by Brian again, of the Northerner standing over Simon.
And Mystery Girl in the background. We will figure out who she is.
Yeah. I thought the poster was funny. Can Simon and the Northerner stop fighting long enough to beat the Confederacy? It's not looking good. And when they're strapped to those cannons. Now it's time for the meat of the matter, which is issue 12. You're excited to talk to us about 12, Michael. So why don't you lead it off?
If there's people listening to this and they're not into Redcoat yet, this is
the one.
This is a perfect issue. Like, this is the issue that shows you how great this series is. Like, it really is so much fun. There's so much mystery that Jeff is setting up. It really is such a fun issue. You need to go out and buy this immediately.
There were several times I audibly was like, oh, I'm so excited.
How does he, like, do we get any insight? He just says, my latest job is sour-faced cobbler. Like, he just got his butt kicked by the Northerner in true Back to the Future's fashion. To your point, Michael, it picks up right where the last one left off. He even says, like, mid-heave, I was confronted by a Union soldier who made it abundantly clear my indifference to this war was not just foolish in his opinion, but life-threatening.
He's basically alluding to the fact that his power, his life is intertwined with the United States.
And we've heard that before.
Yeah.
We've heard the story of one of the immortals that went on a boat, and then once he passed, like, whatever the magical barrier is, he aged and died.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And so
he can't leave the country.
Yeah, it's a reoccurring theme, and it makes you wonder, it's like, what if he teleported to Alaska? Would that be okay? I think it would. But you couldn't go through Canada. Not if you were Simon. You'd have to teleport. If you wanted to go to Alaska. Could you go to Hawaii? You probably couldn't.
Could you take a boat?
You'd be in international waters. Once you get to international waters, it's no longer America.
Oh, jeez. That's complicated.
It is. And so there is a little bit of a turning point, though, because the Northerner tells him basically he knows he's immortal and he knows about magic. And then it catches Simon off guard. This part is like where they mention the significance of the young lady and how because of this moment, if she's never named historically, I think she's going to be, because I think that's Brian and Jeff's vibe with this book. But even if she's never named, the fact that the Northerner says she's also important, she's the face of every child this war will save or damn, would be enough for me to, like, she might just be important enough because the Northerner knows that by having her around, it will help Simon realize to do the right thing. It may not, she may not be Harriet Tubman. She may not, I know she's not because we looked it up, but she may not be someone in the history books. She may just be like the person that needs to be there to make sure that Simon does the right thing. It's like in Back to the Future 2, how there's that Biff world. Like, the Northerners from the evil Biff world, but in the evil Biff world, for him, the South one. So it's even worse than the evil Biff world.
Now, do we know if the Northerner's immortal?
I don't get that impression. Did you?
I didn't know, but it seemed like he knows a lot about immortals.
I mean, obviously, I'm a smidgen confused, because if he's not immortal, we obviously see him during Geiger times, and, you know, he as well is in a get-up from a different time period, but, I mean, he makes it sound like it was a time period where the South won. I mean, I don't think it's been revealed to us yet, but he does kind of make a snarky promise of, or like comment about him being one of the like long living people, but he stole his power. He didn't earn it.
He does.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's where I assume, like, it was almost like, hey, I earned my immortality, you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it felt like...
Well, so here's the wrinkle, right? His wallet has the Founding Fathers symbol on it. And later, when we get to it, the cobbler says they sent someone. And we also know that satchel had it on there. So this may be an indication that this is an indication that the Founding Fathers, in fact, had those documents and they were stolen from them. And so he goes back in time. And because if you read it, it says Department of Historic Preservation, authorized currency, banknotes, circa, and then you can't see it after that. But it says Department of Historic Preservation. And it has the Founding Fathers symbol on the wallet. This is a very specific, like, that's big. That's showing like he's either he stole somebody's wallet or he's part of the Department of Historic Preservation, which, like, we've always thought he was a time traveler. He had an Uzi, he had the super boots, or the future boots, and all that stuff in his bio. But like, that's a big one, guys. That's a big part of the answer to your question. Like, I don't think he's immortal. I think he's a time traveler, and he tells us he's a time traveler from an alternate timeline where the South won. So somehow he got out of that timeline and became part of this good guy group. It's a lot.
But then how does he know to travel like into the future with Junkyard Joe and stuff like that? I just genuinely, I know a lot of questions are going to be answered, but that's why I loved this so much, because it brought up there's so much I need to know, and there aren't answers like immediately yet. But I will say, like, in this scene where he's got the money and he's like, oh, it hasn't changed. And then Simon's just being Simon, basically being like, why would I help you find the cobbler? Again, this is a moment where he's not helping the Northerner to, like, stop this guy who wants to tear apart America, and the visions come again.
I feel like if Redcoat or Simon is in the prime universe, let's say, like Universe Prime, do you think we could call it that? Because it's our timeline.
Yes.
And the Northerners from an alternate timeline. Is it possible that the founding fathers that want to destroy this timeline are from another timeline, and the Northerners kind of chasing them?
Maybe.
That's just a theory. I'm just throwing that out there.
No, that'd be super sweet.
I don't know. But that's what makes this book great. It leaves you guessing. It makes you guess and imagine where the story could go.
He gives us a little bit more detail and some very poetic conversation between the two of them, I feel like, about time and the concept of time. And, you know, the thing about this is the Northerner mentioned several times, like, oh, you haven't changed, or, oh, I know you. And then the guy will be like, what do you mean? I just met you. And he's like, no, it'll be later. So we know that this Northerner has had experience with a Simon that is farther in the future as well.
That's true.
And so, you know, he's hopping back to this for whatever reason, but he does also make a point that, you know, it'll be too late for him to change the outcome of Peachtree now, but Atlanta could still fall. So those are references to battles. And then he pulls out his bookmark again, and then he says, to your point about McFly, no, it hasn't changed, because the family has not disappeared, because the under the sea dance for mom and dad hasn't happened yet. And so that's exactly what I thought. I put it in the show notes that it was just like Back to the Future, you know.
But it does seem like awesome. We're not just dealing with time, we're dealing with multiple universes, if he's from another timeline.
I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason we know that is he says that specifically.
Yeah.
Okay, so, like, after Simon, like, begrudgingly is like, sure, I'll help you. Let's go find this cobbler guy. And then we see the cobbler, or, you know, some older gentleman walking into his house. And, like, how cool is it that he rewinds his clock backwards in time to secretly make that clock open so there's a save?
Mm-hmm.
It's like Batman.
Yeah. He had to, so it was like it was, room, it was at 3:00, and he had to be like, bloop, and then
But then the wrinkles come further, right? Because the safe opens, and right there, very prominently, there's a file that says Department of Historic Preservation, the Battle of Shiloh. And so...
he's clearly from the future as well. He has futuristic guns.
And a simple sabotage field manual.
Yeah, and obviously currency, holsters, ammunition. There's cola, and
operations manual from 2022.
But here's the thing: so if there is multiple timelines, if there is multiple, maybe there's more than one version of the Founding Fathers, like you were saying. This guy's got this stuff. The Northerners got this stuff, and we don't really know who is who or who's tied with what just yet, but. In this case, this is there's a bunch of automatic weapons. We see, I just really love the visual storytelling of 4 panels with part of a Snickers bar wrapper in it, and then the guy obviously eating it, because it's just such an amazing way to tell a reader that this guy is displaced in time. Mm-hmm. So those Union soldiers come by because they think he's been passing information to the South for whatever reason, which isn't in fact true.
They sneaked him out.
And so what did you think of this, Mike? I know this is part of the kind of the reason that you were saying, if you're not reading Redcoat, like, this is not the type of a scene you find in anything else. We have so many questions right now. We want so much more, but like he's eating a candy bar, and then this next, it just blows my mind.
And so, like, when we realized, like, this guy is also a time traveler, he had to have known who Simon Pure was. So why would he have hired Simon Pure if maybe there is a universe where Simon Pure actually did deliver that stuff?
Well, and the thing is, the Northerner gets it from Simon, and then he pulls out his bookmark because he's like, I'm hoping that doing this will change this. And it doesn't. And then he's like, there's not enough time to do that, but there might be enough time to do these other things still. So I think he's kind of chasing the next like thing he's trying to stop in some way, one way or another. But what about that AK-47 in the Civil War?
Yeah, that's cool. He's brought guns and stuff and Snickers from the future.
Guns and Snickers from the future. Yeah. Well, to your point, you don't. Yeah, bars of gold. We don't see anything really. We see like 21st century. We don't see laser guns or time traveling things, which is interesting.
Well, sorry. Did you want to talk about? I don't want to rush you ahead. I know you wanted to bring up that big flashback panel on page 10, but I was going to jump even further forward. Did you want to talk about that at all?
Oh, I just forgot to tell everybody that Davy Crockett is in that panel. We know it's Davy Crockett because he also appears in Ghost Machine #1. And he's fighting those, what look like, to me now, I'd say almost like Wendigos. We've been talking about them for a while.
They remind me of the Morlocks from the Time Machine movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
But jumping ahead, here's where I get confused. Is the cobbler hired Redcoat, but then Redcoat and the Northerner go to cobbler's house, and the cobbler immediately opens fire on them. Why? He just hired him. Is it because the Northerner's with them and knows the Northerner and hates the Northerner, wants him dead? Because the Northerner's pursuing him?
That would be my guess. And also, he is in a Union soldier outfit.
That's why. That was my assumption, is that he just saw the Union soldier outfit because he had just fought off the other Union soldiers. Okay. But that's also where it's awesome. Like the way, I love the way that Brad makes the bullets fly with the colors. It's just really neat. And you see him hold up this semi-automatic or automatic rifle or whatever, fires at them. The Northerner tells Simon to flee and like covers the girl. And then I love this like half page splash of the Northerner with both of his guns again, just blasting.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
It does. And then he runs, like, this is a really key panel. So the cobbler runs around the corner and stops for a minute, and he says, so they sent someone. And it's like, so then it's like, well, wait, so who sent, is it like the bad guys who are working against this historical society and the Northerner stole the guy's wallet? Or are you the bad guy and that's why you got this stuff and the Northerners trying to stop you? Or is it two different timelines and you're the same people and you just have different motivations? It's just, there's a lot going on here. It's a web.
But that's what's great. That's what makes this so good. I also love when Simon asks, "Can I have one of your guns?"
Yeah. Is no. Yeah. There is one thing about the panel right after the guy says that, and it's Simon with the young lady, and she says she's scared, and he says, "I'm not leaving you, okay? Hey, eyes on me, girl. We're not dying tonight." And that just made me think of the Johnny Appleseed episode when there was like the starving child, and he was like, "Go find your parents." And it's one of those times where I feel like they put these nuggets in there to remind you he's getting better, he's getting better, he's getting better, and he's going to have those better, more heroic moments like the ones he talked about at Einstein's deathbed and stuff like that.
It's clearly, he's an anti-hero, and this is what makes us love him, is he's still such a good person towards kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. and they get some grenades thrown at them, and then it's just curtains. Just somehow they make it out. I was surprised, but they did not. They didn't die, and they all three survived the blast of 3 grenades, destroying the entire house.
Yeah.
I like how he shielded her in that panel, the explosion, and he just like, boom. One, he knows he will come back to life should he be killed, but
yeah.
He.
So this scene ends with the Northerner basically saying he's out of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole book ends with, the Northerner saying he needs to catch the cobbler before he reaches General Hood. That's what I want to say. They bring up General Hood, I think in issue 11, right?
Yeah.
We don't know who that is, right? Is that going to be related to like the founding father, ceremonial people who are in those hoods?
No, that's a historical reference.
General Hood?
Yeah, but
is that
it
a real
mean,
person?
General Bell Hood was a Confederate.
But that doesn't
general.
mean that the cult, like as far as we know, the cult is probably connected to one side of this. And to remind everybody of the exact wording, I did find the panel. It's when they're talking and Simon's trying to get him to talk more, and the Northerner says, "I'm from a history that was never supposed to exist. Over a century from now, a different America where the South won. Apparently, that was never supposed to happen. Someone made sure it did." And so, like, that's interesting, right? And so somehow he's found a way to travel outside of that. But that's very, very specific, like that's very specific. That tells us so much about him.
I do like that he's obviously in his wagon that has a ton of guns from the future. And like how ominous, and none of the unnamed will survive. Who does that include? Does that include Junkyard Joe, Geiger? And the next issue says arming the South. Oh!
Yeah, this is a big deal. And if the Northerner is right and it's Simon's fault, that's even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the other big one, especially from like a fan like woohoo standpoint. The last thing he says that the Northerner says is, "And none of the unnamed," it's in bold, "will survive." This Northerner obviously has interacted with Simon in the future and all that kind of stuff, which means he's probably interacted with Tariq, means he's probably interacted with Joe, and that means that he has been part of a team called the Unnamed at one point, or he wouldn't refer to them that way. You know what I mean? Like that's.
Is this the first time that? Is this the first time they've been referred to as that in all the books?
I think we've seen it like narrators, like the narrator in the Geiger books. Remember the mail carriers talked about the heroes without like the unnamed heroes, and that's where it kind of came from. And then we saw it on the timeline. But whether or not he was referencing these specific, he was right, because he was always like and he talked about each of them when they were first introduced. But yeah, I thought that was really neat. Made me feel like, all right, team up, let's do it. I
feel like this leaves such amazing possibilities for the storyline, because it seems like the Northerner has insinuated that maybe he's tried to save the timeline before, and like how many times has Simon effed it up?
Like Groundhog Day?
Yeah.
Here's what I really hate about this series so much. I hate that I just want to read the next one so bad.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate it. I'm just like, I can't go another 4 weeks. What are you doing to me, Jeff and Brian?
It is fantastic storytelling.
And but then even they bookend it perfectly, because they put this bio in here of a character that we haven't seen in forever. And we were asking questions. We were like, is she part of the conspiracy? And that's Juliet Morgan. And we know her from Morgan Chase, JP Morgan Chase deal. And we learn that she does end up having like relations with Simon, but then she does get married, and Simon's sad about that in their history or whatever. But it clarifies that back on that boat, she was not evil, and that ultimately also that there's this little note on the bottom about how Benedict Arnold, it was his nefarious scheme, and he was buried at the bottom of the ocean, ellipses, for a time. And it's like, well, yeah, we know he's coming back out of there.
The bio had to get the last word to even let us know there's more story.
Yeah. We do have a listener mail this time. This one is a little different. It was really appropriate for this episode because if you saw recently, we did a little promo video for this episode in a new format and what we're doing. And one of our very regular listeners who also contacts us on Instagram, and that's Buckeye Boy. That's BuckeyBoi09 on Instagram.
Has to be from Ohio.
I know.
Hands down. Buckeye Boy, please let us know in your next fantastic mail.
Oh, that's right. So if you'd like to be like Buckeye Boy 09 and you would like to send us a fantastic mail, you can do that at ghostmachinefans@gmail.com. And so he writes, what about the issues you've yet to get to? Geiger 13 and 14, Redcoat 11, Hyde Street 5, The Rockefellers 5, Hornsby and Halo 5 and 6, and Blood Tree 1 through 6. He just threw that one in there. He says, I know Blood Tree is a long shot, but it is Mad Ghost and by Peter Tomasi. You are absolutely right about that. Does this also mean if 2 or more issues come out in a week, you will go over all of them the same week? So that's a great question. I think that in the rare occasion, if there's not a Ghost Machine release, we can talk about Blood Tree. I'll answer that part of that question for sure. But our intent, just like we did just now, is on each of those, we're going to do a combo episode to catch up. And then presumably after that, we'll be back to doing one at a time. And we were planning on, if more than one issue releases that week, we very well may talk about multiple issues in those cases. What do you think?
Yeah, cover everything on day of. Then people can read it and jump into it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I will say, apologies, Buckeye Boy. We got a little bit behind, but it was because we had creator interviews that I think everyone loved, like we have when we're doing next week, right, Nick?
Yeah, there's excellent news, and yeah, that is what it is. That there's just so many Ghost Machine comics that if you break it up to try to do it one per week, it's not possible to catch up. So I think we're going to take our Canadian friends' advice and just do it all on release day. We'll do it live. Well, no, we won't do it live, but we'll air it on that day for you after it's been very nicely edited 3 days before.
And you'll line it up with Canadian holidays.
So is excellent news. As usual, we want to let you know what to look forward to for the next episode. And that is that Redcoat co-creator and friend of the show, Brian Hitch, will be returning for his second interview.
He is a delight.
He is. We're going to talk to him all about the Northerner and Redcoat 11 and 12. So it was fortuitous that we just got done talking about that. Well, it's been a pleasure having you back on the show for not 1 but 2 issues of Redcoat, Michael Schwartz.
This is great. It's by far my favorite comic series out.
Thanks for
having me on. I'm excited to talk about 13.
Yeah, us too. But if you'd like to check out all of our other content, you can do that by going to www.ghostmachinefans.com, where you'll find our Instagram, our wiki, our friends from the Ghost Machine Comics Fans Facebook page. Also, there's been a lot of activity lately on the Ghost Machine Comics Reddit. And if you go on there or on our Instagram profile page, you'll notice there's a link to the new Ghost Machine Fans Community Discord. Really have been having a lot of fun in there. There's lots of cool different chat rooms that Flashy Transition 737, friend of the show, put together. You can talk about anything from collecting Ghost Machine comics to just talking about the particular universe that you like. I've seen people in there every day, so make sure to come participate in that. It's a lot of fun. And
all right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight or this morning, whenever you're listening, on the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast.
podcast.
How was that? Did I get it right?
Amazing podcast.